What up, everybody? So, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put that and then say movie review as full title, given 100 characters you have to have for a title here for YouTube. Figure that. But anyways, this film is starring Margot Robbie, and it's really, in all honesty, should have been just called Harley Quinn. Let's face it. We didn't need to have that extra title at the end. Because, let's face it, it's really a Harley Quinn movie. It should have just been called Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. And have the Birds of Prey being more of the side characters that they actually are. Though technically main, but really they're more supporting to Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, which is done really well. There's no actual Joker. Like, the Heath Ledger Joker's not even there. They just rely on basically cartoons. It's kind of, I get, especially given contractual obligations, and they just, even though he really wasn't that bad, he was actually one of the few highlights in the movie. I just wish we would have gotten a little more out of it. You know? Because me and my friends didn't hate it. You know? I get some of the meh on it, but which is almost understandable after last night's Oscars for why Joaquin Phoenix got it, but though they might have regretted it given his speech for the most part up until he finally, given how meandering that was, but regardless of that, overall the film itself is, if you're wanting to at least go into this and say that in comparison to Justice League and Suicide Squad, is it a better film? Yes. Is it better than, say, what we've been getting from the likes, at least as far as DCU is concerned, from the likes of Shazam or a Wonder Woman? Don't go in expecting that. Lower your expectations to the point where lower your expectations to the point of Suicide Squads, but not to the point that you did coming out of Suicide Squad, but when you do go in, but come out hopefully liking what you get, despite the fact that there are issues that seem to be surrounding this film and might be slightly part of what is plaguing this movie before going into it. Isn't so much that it's been getting glowing reviews, at least from people in the Hollywood side of things, but it seems not as much on the other side of things. Though I think people, and even with the reviews that seem glowing, they're still mixed bag, more so that it does have problems, but it's not as problematic as I think they thought it was going as Suicide Squad turned out to be. The only thing that is problematic and probably will hurt this film is that things that are said going on in this film are being comparable to what was happening within the recent Ghostbusters, in the sense of how it is portraying and the attitudes of which it portrays men, certain people about men, how it is with men, and the whole men and women. It's unintentionally sexist in that regard, but not to a point of being offensive enough to make you not be able to watch this movie, or at least be willing to give it another rewatch. Something that seems to not be the case with that Ghostbusters film, from what I've heard at least. I know I didn't get a chance to see it, and I kind of strayed away from that one. This one, given I want to see where DC was going next, given especially last year with both just DC in general for films, given Shazam and definitely given Joker, I had to give this a fair shake, despite what it was saying, and I was glad to hear that it wasn't a thing. I was going to probably wind up watching it regardless of what good word it has. And once again, Margot Robbie kills it as Harley Quinn. And given that this is mostly more from Harley Quinn's perspective, which is very similar in the sense of what you kind of got from Joaquin Phoenix Joker in the unreliable narration style. Sure, you get the narrative style being more closer to Deadpool, or this being a Deadpool light. And just the way, I think it's more just Gotham in general, in terms of men, as opposed to women, I guess. And it doesn't really help when there's a certain scene in the movie involving involving the main character of Black Mass, or Roman, as we should say, played by Ewan McGregor, who does for what he's given and what clearly little close to source material that it seems he is to an extent. Even more so Zaz, which I will be honest, let's face it, the best portrayal of Zaz is actually in the series Gotham. I'm going to just say that right now, even though that was goofy too, but for some reason it worked there in that series, whereas here, not as much. I will say that in comparison to Joker, I mean, it is definitely, you get a little bit more fun out of it, despite the fact that that portion of the message is in terms of all the males just coming off a bit more on the bigotry, misogynistic type of thing. And I do not, as a dude, I feel like people don't understand the difference between what is feminism and what is sexism. And I guess in the case of what this film does, of mixing of those two, it's but yet it's just somehow I'm more entertained than this film, looking back overall, more so compared to what I've been getting out of, dare I say, Captain Marvel? Though Wonder Woman does a better job of how to handle things, has still done a better job than not only this film on handling that, but given that your characters aren't exactly fully likable necessarily, and they're mostly all bad in their own right, except for maybe the chick who plays Canary and to some extent the cop, Montoya, who was kind of pointless, really. But I guess we needed someone on the other side of the law or something, and it's very, in the unreliable narration, it does seem similar to Deadpool in the way it tells its story in places, but it's not nearly as cohesive as Deadpool, and it just comes off more unreliable narration, but not in as clever of a way as what Joker was doing for what that film had to do. But I do like what this film is. It is and there isn't a whole lot you're going to miss, honestly, if you do go to the creds. If anything, it just makes sense of why she named the hyena, and it does have a few Easter eggs that do tie back into the other films. But while praising it more for just trying to be its own contained film, its more focus is more on the Harley Quinn character, and the MacGuffin of the film is this diamond in the film. So, which winds up being more centered around this petty thief crook character that's actually supposed to be Cassandra Cain, which is apparently a Batgirl, actually, and she's nothing like that at all. That's another, as far as I'm concerned, live action, at the very least, the best Harley Quinn we're going to get right now has been what we've gotten out of Margot Robbie. They definitely did really good with that. I'm very happy on that. And yeah, they're tying in, and while also hinting at certain aspects of what might happen. And so I have a feeling it does suck that they're not going to go. Hopefully the next film will be more like a Gotham City Sirens thing as opposed to another Birds of Prey. And it's a better idea of Birds of Prey when we do get down to those characters, and they do enough to give them backstories so we can care about them, or at least be able to care about them. More so Black Canary's role, and finding out that they basically decided to do the same thing with her, what they kind of wound up doing for the Ant-Man stuff, in the sense that she's essentially a next generation Black Canary. She's not the Black Canary we knew, because that one was a hero. That's the only thing about the whole point of Montoya, I think, what that wound up being of any point whatsoever, aside from just forcing these guys to deal with their own issues and then finally come together and have to deal with Black Mask, the overall main villain of this whole thing, even though it gets to a point where you think that most of the stuff that he does do is bad, and he is a sort of childish, and all this other thing. In terms of the way the character was written, is maybe kind of bad, but it's the way he's performed and portrayed through Ewan McGregor is actually done fairly well for what but it does make me sad that we're not going to be getting him again. I'm not going to spoil how that is the case, but also the whole thing with Zaz, there was more catharsis for what happened with him too, especially given that he is honestly the more he's more of a rat, but the kind of rat that's more faithfully loyal to the main villain than, or more or less, but really is kind of steering the main villain, is basically the toxic person that's really in his life, causing him to be more like that, I'd say. And it's mostly just from the main premise of what happens is that he basically, when the Joker broke up, but she never fully commits to it. And when she finally does, from what is shown in the scene of her running the truck in and blowing up Ace Chemicals, where they both, remains to be the main origin of both Joker and Harley Quinn becoming what they are. Even though, logically speaking, they would have been dead. But, comic book lore, it's suspending disbelief kind of thing. So, but I did enjoy, overall I did enjoy for what this film was. What we do get out of Huntress, which does play a huge part, storyline to an extent wise, of the MacGuffin at least. And I did like how between her and then Harley Quinn, what Harley Quinn did at that point was definitely had a more of a catharsis to it as opposed to what they did for Black Mask. And that's slightly not entirely the close to the same as what you do get from him through Gotham, which was so much better. I'm still gonna say that what we do get from him is fine for what's given, but we are not as much caring about the villains so much as we are clearly caring about our main heroes. And apparently it's more of a comedy thing, with some action kind of laced into it. That's at certain times in terms of choreography is like John Wick light. Ironic, and even more ironic given one of the guys that is responsible for Matrix as well as John Wick, is actually, in terms of the stunt choreography and stuff, actually was involved during the reshooting to put in more action, even though there's barely a whole lot, but it does enough. And the scenes you do get, whether as ridiculous as some of those scenes technically are from a logical standpoint, whether it be the police station raid, yet alone what happens at that carnival, I guess, is really more so and what they do with that. It's fine, but I wouldn't say I'd say if you do go out a matinee, but I wouldn't go as far as to, but I understand if you rather wait for it and when it comes out for rental, and it seems that most people are deciding to do that because it's clear the money at the box office isn't very huge coming off of this week. That, and, well, I also saw that 1917 was finally playing at the theater. More than likely just to further up the Oscar buzz that it's getting, and did win some awards that last night. Not nearly as much as another movie that I guess I should see that I didn't see. And that's not one of the ones I was going to think of seeing compared to Jojo Rabbit or Peanut Butter Falcon, which was not even in here, but yet somehow they managed to get Shia LaBeouf and the one dude that actually has Down syndrome there. That was interesting. And kind of cool, or at least Shia LaBeouf knows how to have the patience needed for dealing with people with Down syndrome, when if it was anybody else, they'd be assholes about it, and I'd have wanted to go through the screen and punch them in the face. So I'm glad to see that he shows that humility, and he at least tries to help him, or at least work something out with that. Poor guy. Down syndrome, it sucks, And they were at least quiet, and they weren't trying to get mad about it or anything, which was nice, and just somewhat respectful, which was cool about that thing, I guess. Sorry, I'm talking Oscars again from that. Forgive me for that, but anyways. As far as this film is concerned, there is something that does happen at the end credit scene. It's not really that much. This is minor spoilers. I'm not even going to bother to say that I am putting in minor spoilers, because there's not really a whole lot to spoil in this movie, unless you're just going to talk about the whole thing itself. And what they do is fine in the movie, but for the most part, I enjoyed what this film was. It's more one of these barely etching into thumbs up, but I will say that it's better than the what is considered the worst via the Justice League or even Suicide Squad for that matter. In fact, this was trying to be better than that while trying to be a Deadpool light, which makes sense for the Harley Quinn character, so it works for what it does. Though it is a little bit more of a mess, but it's not as bad of a mess or as meh as Suicide Squad was. And I do feel like people who did like Jared Leto's Joker will feel like they didn't give the fair shake that they should have done for this film to make up for it, which is what they should have done instead of just completely canning him, even though I understand how he was behind the scenes, and that's why it was probably for the best. But they'll know about how he's going to be as Morbius anyway. But it's whatever, and I'm already pissed at Leto for what he's done to 30 Seconds to Mars at this point. They used to be good. They really did. But anyways, enough on that. What did you guys think of Birds of Prey and the family? And not going to bother this time around. Leave a comment below, I guess. Let me know. Rock the like button with the rest if you must. I have my Facebook page link, which has been updated since the name change. Link in the description below. As always, guys, I guess keep it real, keep it rocking. And if I'm Tyler, and yeah, I like rock music, anything related to it, including metal, and I talk that, and then I talk, as you've seen here with movies, when I get a chance to and I can afford to, compared to most other people that are able to work around the current YouTube algorithms bullshit, which used to be in my favor to the point where maybe I could have, and then things happened in the Dark Ages did. So that's what it is. But anyways, what did you guys think of the movie? Just leave a comment below, let me know. I guess even through the link in the description on the Facebook page, like comment, and that's it, guys. Well, take care.